What if the answers you've been searching for, the direction you've been waiting for, the clarity you've been praying for, what if it's already inside of you, not outside of you, not in the next book or expert or program, not in the person that seems to have it all figured out inside of you? I know that might sound like too simple, maybe even a little naive, but I want to make the case today that your soul already knows. It has already known. And the work of this stage is not about finding the answer, it's about learning to trust the one that's already there. Just a quick recap. Episode 1, we talked about regulated, safety before expansion. Episode 2, we observed, awareness creates choice. In episode 3, we opened, healing creates openness. And now we arrive at the fourth letter, T, for trust. Your soul already knows. When I talk about trust in the rooted method, I'm talking about that divine intelligence that we have somehow disconnected from, and we no longer see that we have so much knowledge and wisdom within us. I'm talking about that grounded divine connection, and I'm talking about what it is to be human, the embodiment, to trust yourself, your instincts, your inner knowing, the quiet voice that speaks underneath all the noise, the opinions, the expectations, the fear and the doubt, and it kind of whispers like, this is the way. Most of us have been taught directly or indirectly to distrust that voice. Like we need someone outside of us to always tell us what to do, where to go, who to be. We've been taught to listen to outside authority, to other people's certainty, to data, logic, proof. While all of those things have their place, we have swung so far to that direction that many of us have completely lost the thread of our own inner guidance. We second guess ourselves constantly. We ask everyone else what they think before we check in with what we feel. We override our instincts because we're afraid they might be wrong. And the result is a life that looks fine from the outside, but feels fundamentally misaligned on the inside. It feels like a synthetic path because it is. The trust stage is about rebuilding the inner connection, coming home to the knowing that was already there and learning to act from it, even when it's scary or it goes against the grain or when no one else can see what you see yet. I have to tell you, the moment that made me believe in this stage more than anything I could ever teach was the moment I told you about in episode 1, the doctor's office. I was sitting across from the specialist who was absolutely certain about what I needed. He had the degrees, the expertise, the authority, and everything in the room. The white coat, the prescription pad, the confident tone was telling me to listen to. But there was something else in the room too, something quieter, something that lived not in my head, but somewhere deeper in my chest, in my gut, in my bones. And I can only describe that as that soul knowledge. And it said, wait, there's another way. I didn't have proof. I didn't have a guarantee. I didn't know anyone that knew anything about natural healing. I didn't even know that was a possibility, to be honest. I didn't have anyone in that room backing me up. All I had was that knowing, and I trusted it. That decision to trust my inner knowing over external authority healed my autoimmune disease. But more than that, it became the foundation of every brave choice I have made ever since then. Every boundary I've set, every path that I've chosen that didn't make sense to everyone else at first, every time I said no to something that looked good but felt wrong, and yes to something that felt right, even when I couldn't explain why. Trust is a practice. And once you start building it, once you have experience of trusting yourself and being right, it compounds, it grows, it becomes the most reliable navigation system you have ever had. Inside the rooted method, the trust stage is built around 7 interconnected areas. So let's go through each one. Pillar number 1, intuition. Intuition is the language of your inner knowing. It is the information your body and soul process before your conscious mind catches up. It shows up as a gut feeling, a sense of yes or no that arrives before you have the reason, really. a quiet certainty that something is right or wrong, but you can't fully explain it. I want to share some research that actually supports this because I know some of you, like me, need the science along with the soul. Your body processes an enormous amount of information before the level of conscious awareness. What we call intuition is often your nervous system and your subconscious mind synthesizing that information and delivering a signal. It's not magic, it's intelligence, a different kind of intelligence than logic, but no less real and very much valid. The practice of intuition is learning to hear it above the noise, to distinguish it from fear, from projection, or other people's voices that have been taking up residence in your head, and to take it seriously as a source of genuine guidance. We'll move to pillar number 2, self-trust. Intuition is the signal. Self-trust is what allows you to act on it. Self-trust is rebuilt the same way it was broken, one small, kept promise at a time, honoring your own knowing, one choice made from the inside out rather than the outside in. So let's move to pillar number 3, confidence. Confidence is not the absence of fear. Confidence is moving forward in the presence of fear because you trust yourself to handle what comes. Real confidence comes from self-knowledge, from the observed stage, from knowing your patterns, from your strengths, your values, your non-negotiables well enough that you can navigate from that place even when things are uncertain. And it is built in the doing, not in the waiting until you feel ready, not in the preparation until you feel certain, in the actual act of taking this step imperfectly, so nervous, without a guarantee, and discovering that you are capable of more than you knew. Every brave thing that you do builds the evidence base for your own confidence, and that evidence base is something no one can take from you. Pillar number 4, identity shifts. As you move through the rooted method, as you regulate, observe, open, and now trust, something inevitable begins to happen. You start to outgrow old versions of yourself, old identities that were built around roles, around other people, of what other people needed from you, around who you had to be to survive. Those identities start to feel too small, too tight, like a coat you've been wearing for so long you forgot it wasn't your skin. The trust stage is where you give yourself permission to shed them, to say, I am no longer the person who shrinks in that room. I am no longer the person who says yes when I mean no. I am no longer the person who waits for permission to take up space. Identity shifts are very uncomfortable. Sometimes they are disorienting. The people around you may not understand them, may even resist them, but they are necessary. The shifts are the natural result of healing, and they are the beginning of living as who you actually are rather than who you were shaped to be. Pillar number 5, visioning. Once you have started to trust yourself, once the noise of everyone else's opinions quiets enough for you to hear your own, you can finally vision with clarity. Visioning is not wishful thinking. It's a practice of getting specific and honest about what you actually want your life to look like. Not what looks good, not what seems realistic, not what you think you're allowed to want, what you actually want. What does your body feel like in the life that you are building? What are you doing? Who are you with? What does a Tuesday afternoon feel like when you're living in alignment? Visioning from a place of trust rather than a place of fear or scarcity or what other people expect is one of the most powerful acts of self-direction available to you. It is how you begin to move towards a life that is truly yours. Pillar number 6, journaling. Journaling is one of the most direct pathways to your own inner knowing that exists. Journaling is a conversation with yourself, with your soul, with whatever you call the deeper intelligence inside of you. The practice of writing without editing, without filtering, without knowing where it's going, that is where the truest things come through, where the answers you didn't know you had actually surface, where the patterns you couldn't see from the inside of your head become visible on that page. Journaling is how you access the knowing that lives below the noise. And in the trust stage, it becomes one of the most powerful tools for hearing yourself clearly. So let's move to pillar number 7, purpose and alignment. The place where trust ultimately leads is purpose and alignment. When you trust yourself deeply enough, when you have regulated your nervous system, observed your patterns honestly, opened yourself to receive your own life, and build a real relationship with your inner knowing, you start to feel the pull of something that is specifically yours, a very specific direction, calling, a contribution that only you can make in the way that only you can make it. Purpose is not a destination you arrive at, it is a thread you follow, and alignment is the feeling of following it. That sense of rightness, of being in your own lane, of moving in a direction that feels truest to you, even when it's hard. Trust is what keeps you on the thread when everything else is loud. It makes you say yes to the right things and no to the wrong things, not because someone else validated your choice, but because something inside you already knows it. So the bigger picture, I always like to zoom out here. Trust is the hinge. Everything before it, regulate, observe, open, was preparing you for this, creating the safety, the awareness, and the openness to finally hear yourself clearly. Everything after it, expand and direct, depends on it, because you cannot truly expand in a direction that isn't yours, and you cannot direct your life with purpose if you don't trust the compass you're navigating with. Trust is also where the doctor's office story continues and comes full circle, because every time you choose to trust your inner knowing, even in the small ways that are inconvenient, sometimes laughed at, you are doing exactly what I did in that moment. You are choosing yourself. And every single time you do that, every kept promise, honored instinct, every brave choice made from the inside out, you are building something that compounds over time into a life that is genuinely yours, unmistakably yours. So, this week's practice, I want you to journal on this one question: where in life am I not trusting myself right now? Not really where you're uncertain or afraid. Specifically, where are you overriding your own knowing? Where are you deferring to someone else's voice over your own? You don't have to act on it. Like as usual, just hear it, write it down, acknowledge it, because acknowledgement is the first act of trust. Next week, we'll go into the 5th letter, E, expand, because a woman who regulates, observes, opens, and trusts herself is a woman who is finally ready to grow, not from fear or pressure, but from a foundation that actually holds everything she is building. So subscribe, hit the bell above so you don't miss, drop a comment below. Where in life are you being called to trust yourself more? I'll see you and be with you in the comments. I'll see you next week. Thank you for being here. This is sacred work and you are doing it.